Oh! Thanks. Michael. It was a good birthday. I had a lot of fun. Thank you all that, just showed up, had a good time. We had a pretty big weekend. And a lot of fun. We had Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and my birthday party. And thank you all for the gifts and just showing up in general. And I honestly just want to say thank you to everyone in the Alanos Gateway community. You guys are all awesome. In terms of, just for the participation you guys have had, for wanting to play games and for all the people that, just talked a bit or, just participate with others. Thank you. It's really cool to see you all, become friends and just have a good time.
And
like I said, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Street Fighter, Smash Brothers. I'm glad you guys all have some similar interests in these awesome series.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. Falco, you should probably...
One step ahead of you, old man.
So there's this interesting statement of one step ahead of you, right? And we often hear it in competitive banter. But when you actually sit down and think about one step ahead of you, you start to realize that it's pretty rewarding. It's being able to predict certain actions from your opposition in a competitive setting is really big. In fighting games, we often talk about the difference between reads and reactions. For example, in Super Smash Brothers, when you get a knockdown, the opponent has to get up in place, get up to the right, left, get up, attack, or just stay there, right? And so we call this tech chasing when you are, going after one of those options. You're trying to push momentum here. And it's to this day kind of a big debate about what's bigger, reads or reactions. And I'm specifically talking about Super Smash Bros. Melee and Project Plus. But this mechanic is in every Smash Brothers game. And I love this debate because it shows how right on the fence it is. I remember that, it's the player, when it comes to, what I mean by that is when, again, that's how good this is. It's so on the fence that if I gave advice to say, oh, you should focus more on reads or, oh, you should focus more on reactions, really either answer is correct, and it's more about pushing both sides of it over and over. And it's what defines a read? A read is basically a fighting game term for educated guess, but the educated part's really important because unfortunately I think there's some fragile egos involved when someone gets hard read 3 times in a row. For example, in Street Fighter, if I'm Zangief versus Akuma, and I land his command grab, which is a ton of damage 3 times in a row, that looks like conditioning. That looks like a read. And so, the Akuma player might try to brush it off with, their fragile ego involved and say, guessing, coin flip fighter, right? But the Zangief landed 3 grabs in a row. And, the educated part of the guess is that the Zangief is analyzing just the scenarios here and the habits of the opponent and how to call out those habits accordingly. And I think that's just a really important thing to hone. And again, the whole statement of one step ahead of you, I think is just rewarding in life because it rewards bold, predictive play. People often joke about the stock market as a lottery, but the stock market is also part of that educated guess mentality. It's if you can stay on top of trends, you can oftentimes make things in your favor. Fortune favors the bold. And it's really fun to kind of see things from fighting games and competitive sports in general carry over to a lot of things in life that you could prosper from. And it comes down to making those bold decisions. They often talk about risk and reward. And in this case, yeah, you put some money on the line in your stocks, but if you're staying vigilant and you're staying on top of things consistently with your persistence, you often can find bounty in your work. Obviously, though, you should never feel entitled to reward for your work. As Jean-Luc Picard has talked about, you can put everything into something and still not come out on top, and that's just life. But my thing with that is kind of like Jean-Luc Picard, you keep at it, you never give up. So that's kind of the fun part in competitive games. I talked about sports and, go Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes will make bold plays like that. He'll make bold throws. It's about initiating yourself there. It's about analyzing the opponent, and, Coach Reed and Patrick Mahomes are a great duo there. And being able to, work with like Travis Kelce for these plays that are based on analyzing the opponent's tactics during a game and then trying to find weaknesses to exploit. And that is a form of a competitive, educated guess. And, back to the Reed's reaction things in Smash Brothers, it was the player None that I remember talking about that, how Melee really just perfected that fine line of, when you put someone in a knockdown state where they can only defend and have one option to get up attack, it really is, a blend of reads and reactions. And it's really fun to this day, and again, Melee P+ in any Smash game, to really hone work on both trying to predict where the opponent is now going to evade, and then also trying to hone a potential reaction. Because the thing with reactions is that if you create a scenario like a Western duel where the second someone flinches, you can guarantee a shot, like that's big. But on the other end, if you're already one step ahead of the opponent, you're already huge in the advantage state. This is where cases where, again, I brought up Zangief, but other heavy hitter characters like Bowser, Donkey Kong, Ganondorf, it's beautiful that, some of their moves take quite a bit of time to wind up, but if you land them, they do a lot of damage. So the reward there is if you're constantly predicting where the opponent is going to end up before they're even there, yeah, you just landed a huge hit. And this kind of carries over to FPS games. I made the Pyro in Team Fortress 2, and the Pyro's flare gun is a one and done weapon. And you reload, but your one flare, there's nothing else to it. But if you land a flare when someone's on fire, it does 90 damage and then afterburn, which oftentimes kills classes at 125 HP unless they had overheal, or they could overheal or quickly get to like a med pack. Some form of healing, right? And 5 of the 9 characters have 125 HP. So to me, kind of like how I practice TF2 every week, almost every day. That's one of the things I'm looking at is when we call it puff and sting. And so when I'm looking to puff and sting the opponent with the flare gun, I'm constantly trying to analyze what are my opponent's tendencies. When they're on fire, do they panic? Do they try to stand their ground and shoot back at me? Do they run at me? All those things are important. So it's important to constantly observe. And like the stock market, it's really rewarding. I love Mondays.